Hmm. Hello, everyone. My name is Zafrulla Khan. I come from London Stock Exchange Group, and I have been working towards inclusion for quite some time as a volunteer, and I've been guiding the organization in their inclusion journey for maybe 7+ years internally to shape their policies and procedures. Okay, and I think, and along with me, I've got Argho from Natwest and Shweta from Mastercard. I'd like them to introduce themselves with their bios.
Okay, thanks, Zafar. So I'm Argho Sen. I work with the Natwest Group in India, where I lead commercial banking in India. We have a large sort of GIC or back office setup in India. I've been working for around 25 years, various geographies, various different banks. But I got involved in the diversity and inclusion space only in the last 3 years or so, and it's been a really, really exciting and interesting journey. So look forward to sharing my experiences. Shweta, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Shweta Shukla, and I'm currently working with Mastercard based in India. My role in Mastercard is of people and business partner, which we call human resources business partner in the external world. Prior to Mastercard, I have worked with organizations like General Electric, Aon, Mercer, Vodafone. My interest in diversity was actually while I was studying. So I'm master's in women's studies. So at that point of time, this entire concept of gender got ingrained. And inherently, this has been there since I started my corporate journey. So I'm very glad that people say that education never works in our career, but I'm glad and proud to say that my education is working for me today in my career.
Thank you very much, Shweta. Thank you, Argo, for the tiny insight into your personalities today. And today we are going to be talking about the total, as in future of total rewards, right? When we talk about the future, we sometimes come across this concept of affirmative benefits and reasonable accommodations, right? Especially when it comes to the underrepresented minorities. Let me put the focus more on the LGBT plus population and the community. What are your thoughts on that, Argo? Let me start with you that first.
Okay. So I just want to caveat what I'm saying by stating that I'm not an HR professional. I'm a business leader.
Absolutely.
My thoughts on this is, I see this as, the basic enabler in your journey to diversity and inclusion. The first step that any corporate should do is review all its policies and its benefits. It's not terribly difficult. Yes, diversity teams do face challenges sometimes in getting policies and benefits changed. But it can be done without, for instance, having to get loads of buy-in. You can rewrite your policies. You can rewrite your benefits to include medical cover for, same-sex partners, your travel policies, your medical insurance coverage, your, relocation policies. I say this is the first step because just doing this doesn't actually change anything in your company. If you don't do it, what you're signaling to the community is you're not welcome. We don't care about you. We don't want you. So at least maybe it's a bit of an extreme view, but in my sense, this is basic hygiene. You have to get this done to take the first step in your, journey to diversity and inclusion. The mistake I see a lot of companies make is they do this and then they think we are done. We are now a diverse and inclusive organization. Just rewriting your policies doesn't change anything within the company. So that's my views of it.
That's interesting one. So Shweta, what are your thoughts on this one?
So Zafar, when I look at affirmative action, I just want to highlight something. It may sound a little philosophical, but nature never nature is very diverse. It never has any stereotypes or biases. Somewhere in the last thousands of years, we have got conditioned and we have kind of made compartments and classes. And it's time to change. And it's time to change for everyone. So initially, a couple of years ago, started with women as genders, and world is. So it's high time that we start looking about other people beyond male and female. And everybody is very unique. So it's not just about the LGBTQ people, but it is also about other sections of the community. And when things don't happen naturally, it's important to emphasize and create certain channels to get them included in the system. So, for example, for women, we started with reservations. I'm sure there will be views around it. Some people are for it, some people are against it. But it was important to at least have some, kind of starting point. And then gradually we see that things are changing. So that's where I would say that affirmative action is required, and definitely for our LGBTQ people.
Thanks, Shweta. So let me, from a business standpoint, right? So let me come back to Argho, right? From a business standpoint, when we talk about affirmative action, it also means engaging your employees to bring career growth, progression, and performance indicators, right? Normally known as the KPIs and the KRAs. As in, what's your opinion when it comes to these areas? How do these indicators find its way in terms of bringing affirmative action and accommodation? As in, what's a behavior kind of a thing?
So if you really want to move the needle, Zafar, my view is the rewards teams need to link these indicators, link the metrics finally to, the rewards package. If I talk about NatWest, we do, temperature check, great place to work surveys a year. There are indicators on, diversity and inclusion, which builds into a, sort of engagement score, which is in some way linked to rewards. But if we really want to move the needle, I think the linkage needs to be much more explicit, and the goals and targets need to be really stretching. I think every company needs to think about, do we really want to do this? Do we have real intent to change the needle, change the culture within the organization, change who we recruit, the mix of people we recruit, how do we treat them, what opportunities do we give them to rise? And if you want to move the needle, I think rewards teams play a very critical role by working with the leadership to build a structure of targets which really is stretching, but at the same time is realistic. And it has to be long term, because these are not things you can change in a year. You have to look at a 3 to 5 year time frame, and then you have to link it to rewards. You have to link these metrics to rewards.
So thank you, Argho. I think it's very important to have a very strong relationship of a commitment to inclusion and making it a journey instead of just making it in a number, right? That's what you mean say, and making it more concrete. So Shweta, coming to you on the same lines, right? How do we enforce this kind of a linking of the indicators? Let's put it from a top-down method or a down-up method to figure out, because the business can own it at times, right? But there are individuals who willingly wanted to work on it. So these two edges, how do you think we should really put forward?
Okay, so it is very important to have evaluations, and it is very important to have ownership and accountability when we are doing certain matrix. And why it is also important is because after some point of time, there needs to be a validation, and we all like to have validations, whether we are on the right track and we are going correctly or not. Even appreciation is a validation of the good work that we have done. So yes, we do see that the business does take the ownership and accountability, but at the same time, there are various other support groups that come into the picture who play an important role, where people are willing to come forward and work towards this cause, if I can use the word cause.
Right.
or how could we ensure that there is an inclusion? And what happens is when the business understands, okay, there is a support group, they know that they can, because in business, they also need people who could work for that particular cause. So there's a good amalgamation that happens when the business or the business leader, so not necessarily everybody in the business will be willing to work in that area. When I say willing, it's not, I'm going with willingness and not enforcement, but not necessarily everybody. But they do need a lot of other people, a community who could help. So if we have these support groups, there's a good amalgamation that happens, and it just helps in moving forward for the objective that we are targeting.
Right. So let's pick from
Zafar, if I can just digress for a minute and reflect on my journey with my organization for a bit. And you sort of jumped into rewards. I do feel it has to be a journey, and rewards and the linkage to rewards maybe needs to come a little later in the journey. No, I had mentioned earlier that the first step is, relook at your policies, and rewrite your policies. And that can be done by a core group who's a volunteer team who are very interested in the diversity space. I think the next step is really trying to change the culture of the organization. Bringing it to the forefront, making people aware about what needs to be done, what needs to be changed, engaging everybody, starting up the conversations. And as you do that, you start to make progress in the space. You start to improve, in your recruitment space, in your retention space. Finally, I feel once you have done all that, what do you do to move the needle further? And I have to admit, we are not yet there. That's when I feel that, you have to look at explicitly linking targets to compensation and rewards. I don't know if it'll work if you straight away jump into that, Zafar. And I think for every company, there has to be a journey of cultural change internally.
Absolutely. As in, I totally agree with you, Argho. Yeah. Yes, Shweta.
And Zafar, I would agree to Argho, because let me give you an example of my current organization. Our culture is defined by our values, which is known as the Mastercard way. And one of the key drivers is being inclusive. And when we talk about being inclusive, there are certain aspects. When we talk about enforcement, so it's not exactly enforcement, but it is about iteration, reiteration. So it's like you keep on hammering. When you will keep on reiterating, it will actually be part of me. So there's a lot of encouragement, a lot of inspiration around areas like, fostering belonging, also about seeking multiple viewpoints or voices, or when we talk about diversity. So I would say that Argho very, very well mentioned that yes, there has to be a culture, because once we get into that mode, slowly and gradually we actually get into the rewards and benefits piece, and then it starts really getting formed up.
So yes, like Argho and Shweta, you defined it really well. It's a journey in which you attract talent, you engage them when they're at their workplace, and ensure that you retain them with the best possible effort in ensuring that they have the best of the opportunity at the workplace, right? And during this entire journey is where culture plays a very, very important factor, and culture cannot be changed overnight. I would really put it forward that way. We have to really work every little tiny bit in it to evolve, right? So let's call it cultural evolution is what we are trying to take forward from, right? As in, that's the message I get from Argho and Shweta. Rightly put that way, if I'm not wrong. Okay. Now I'll come back to Shweta's term of willingness and Argho's term of commitment, right? There are people who are willing to do it and who are committed to drive it. Maybe from the community, maybe not from the community. So let's put it as allies. How do you think we could probably recognize our allies in their effort, irrespective of business driving it or the support groups helping them? As in, can we find them some space in their appraisal process, something like that? So what are your thoughts on that? So let me start with Shweta, because you brought up that very crucial part about willingness to start work with. Over to you, Shweta.
Okay, so willingness actually leads to commitment. It cannot be two separate standalone areas. So if I'm willing, I will definitely ensure that I'm committed, and I'll ensure that I if I use the word, deliver to it. And there's where lies my passion. Now, coming to allyship, I would say that allyship, what I have experienced, and this is my personal experience as well, that it comes from the heart and that willingness to do and drive a change. At the same time, and it varies from individual to individual. For example, I have worked with people, and I'm working with people who definitely are not looking for appreciations. They feel that it is important to get that change within the organization, and because organizations are a subset of the communities or the societies. So it's very important that when we drive a change within the organization, it actually leads to a change externally as well. And yes, it is important. While we may, whatever said and done, we may say that, okay, recognition is not important, but recognition is important. Why? Because we basically get to know where do we stand. What extra push or addition is really needed? What could we do differently? And what happens is these people, when we recognize, they become role models. So there will be few people who would be watching these role models, and probably they are going with certain kind of limitations or limiting beliefs that, okay, I can't do. But when they actually look at these role models, the building starts, the community of allyship starts getting larger. So it's very important to have recognition for the allyship. I won't really comment monetary or non-monetary. At the end of the day, recognition is a recognition. Let's not actually get into the tussle of monetary. I mean,
of course not.
Yeah, a flower being given to me is also recognition. A nice email is also recognition. 500 rupees is also recognition. One-to-one, yes. Somebody says that's also recognition. Yes, it may vary from individual to individual, but it's always good to recognize people in the larger forum, just to kind of role model them and get more of people working for the cause.
Cool. So, Argho, what are your thoughts on this one? As in, I'm linking allyship and recognition, and probably even an ERG leader's contribution, right, when it comes to appraisals. Please put your thoughts as to what you think about this.
So, I'm going to take this opportunity first to step back for a second and talk a little more broadly about organizational values before coming to allyship. I think, first of all, the top-down, we need to very clearly signal in the organization what are the values that you stand for. Because as you start this journey, you will find people who are not comfortable, who may not agree, who don't see why do we want to do work in the LGBT space. And I think we have to be very, very clear if you want to drive real change, that as an organization, this is what we stand for. And we will engage and try to explain and try to help you understand. But if it does not fit your personal values, then either you change or you leave. And maybe it's a very hard stance.
So
that is that is the journey I've been through, and I feel that as companies undertake this journey, if there are especially people at senior levels who don't agree, you have to drive those difficult discussions. So the reason I came to this is, at one extreme you have people who may be blockers, and that also needs to be tackled. At the other extreme, you have what you call our allies, who are typically volunteers, who are extremely enthusiastic and committed, and that's what I have found, while working in this space. And they are not doing it for recognition. They are not doing it for reward. They were doing it long before it became a sort of happening topic, so to say, or a hot topic. So honestly, they're going to do it whether you recognize them or not. I am ambivalent about whether there should be any sort of monetary reward, because then you might start, I honestly like the way the volunteers work, the committed, enthusiastic volunteers. What we need to give them is support and recognition. If you want to include it in their annual review, that's up to you. I don't have a firm view on that. As long as we support the good work they're doing, and number two, give them recognition within the company, within the organization, as allies and volunteers driving important change, I think that itself is a very strong motivator for them, or satisfies them that, yes, they're being recognized for the good work they're doing. So I don't have honestly a firm view on whether you should link it to some sort of reward.
Of course not. As in, there's no way to link it to a reward which has a number. Of course, definitely not. As in, rewards, I think the way I personally look at it is maybe cash is the least thing which I would expect.
Yeah.
Okay. The non-monetary part which I would expect is having some simple accommodation at my workplace to say, spare me some time to do some work for inclusion. Or perhaps my manager appreciating the inclusion work I've done for my organization or for my team or for anyone. So non-monetary is definitely what I personally look for, because that's recognition and a reward in its own way for the respect or what I've earned as a human for myself. I would put it that way, right? So yes, I would totally agree with you. I hope it's same thought we agree on. It's not about numbers. It's not about money. It's definitely about making a human feel good for the work and effort they have put in place, right?
Yes, so it's not business, it is more about the human aspect that we are adding to all of us.
True. So now I would actually move a little away from the human aspect, okay? Let me move towards trying to say, when you try to affirmatively embrace LGBT talent, right? There are many ways we can actually accommodate them to ensure the needs as an underrepresented minority are addressed. Let's not, as in there are quite a few basic which we already as a lot of organizations offer. What other ways can we really extend as support for the underrepresented minorities? For example, transition leaves, right? That could be another area. Healthcare insurance is something which a lot of organizations already provide. So let me put the ball in your court to say, Shweta, let's start with you. As in, could you just shed light, because what are the ways which we actually can extend as support for the teams or other people?
Okay. So first of all, I would actually look at it from a different lens, moving away slightly from the benefits angle. And I would like to talk about their skill, or how well can they be hired, because normally we see when any hiring activities happen, I believe we face challenges to hire them and inside the organization. So how well equipped are they? I believe as organizations, as allies or as communities, it is very important for us to invest in their upskilling or making them relevant. When we talk about technology, people who are engineers or technical gigs, they are struggling to get upskilled with the latest technologies which are going to come in the upcoming years. So, talking about those section of population, then it's very important to make this particular committee well equipped. That's one. Now, when they actually come within the organization, again, we have to see that how are we grooming them? For example, we pay a lot of attention on mentoring. Similarly, how about talent? So are we investing in them? Are we really going ahead? And so there's a lot of focus on talent, a top talent, which is in either women or men. How about looking at them as well? What kind of investments are we looking at? Are we grooming them for a leadership role? Because there has to be a start. Yes, it's very easy to hire someone at the leadership level and get them from outside, but what about What about grooming them to actually grow within the organization, because they will be kind of trailblazers within the organization. So those are the elements which I would say are beyond the benefits aspect. Now, if I come to total rewards and benefits, I would say when we say equity pay, I believe it also is, they are also party to it. It is not that there will be only certain section of population which should look at it. Even they need to be classified under that area. Similarly, at this point of time also, I see that organizations are still, and again, with all due respect, I'm sure they have their own reasons, but they are very hesitant as far as including the sex change under insurance. There are a handful of organizations who are doing that in India. There are more who would, we would want them to look at this aspect. So, I mean, we can count those organizations on our fingertips, which are those organizations. But otherwise, I haven't seen, when I was studying, I didn't see a lot of organizations making inroads in that space. Similarly, I'm sure when we talk about leaves, again, I have seen that parental leaves have become, earlier we used to have maternity, paternity, adoption and surrogacy leaves, different categories of leaves. Now what has happened is organizations are evolving. They have come with one term, which is parental leave. We also need to see that, is there some special kind of a leave that we could introduce? Because I'm sure every community has their own challenges. So could we want to evaluate that in case of a need, it may not fall into the category of a paid time off or a parental leave? Is there something else that we would like to offer them so that they can cater to their needs? So these are some of the areas that I would encourage organizations to look forward to.
Okay, so it's more or less moving away from the standard rewards and moving towards actually like we were talking about journey, right? Attracting, engaging, and retaining. In that, having those leadership development opportunities or a professional development opportunities, that's what we should perhaps be looking at. Argho, do you really think, as in, how do you think we can go about further in this journey?
So I agree with Shweta that it has to start from the recruitment space itself, before we get into rewards. And I do think that is still a big challenge. It's a big challenge because so I can only tell you about what the experience I have had with the team. So if we were to say that, for instance, 10%, I mean, there's varying data, 5 to 10% of the population is LGBT. So if I were to go to engineering college or a business school, or any normal graduate college in India to recruit, and we go every year and we recruit large numbers, that population is invisible. We don't know who they are. So how do we signal to them that we are a good place to work? So the journey has to start from there, that in your pre-placement talks, in your engagement with campuses, you call out very loudly, that I welcome diversity, please do apply. How do you prepare your managers who do the interviews, that they don't subtly discourage or they don't get, that they encourage diversity,
Right.
So these are, I think, important challenges which need to be resolved. The transgender space is an entirely different challenge. That's a community with very, very difficult challenges. You will not typically find them, having been able to go to college at all.
True.
The other challenge I see, which maybe we didn't discuss, is again the fact that many do not disclose. So we have a mandate to encourage diversity. We don't have a mandate to force you to disclose. So even in our internal 𝘍𝘀 surveys, almost 10% of our population tick the box, do not want to say. No. So when we talk about grooming them, we don't know who they are. So you need to keep that in mind. I do think the sort of policies you need to look at are, around your, recruitment processes, your pre-employment screening, especially for transgender. You need to look at the normal, policies like medical insurance, life insurance, other benefits. And I agree with Shweta that, the leave and coverage for transition surgery is still a problematic area. I don't think we are yet in a space that companies are entirely comfortable providing that. I mean,
right.
as an ally, as one of the sponsors in this space, I have been pushing very hard internally within my company. And you'd be surprised to note it's not just in India. No, global companies, I find, even in Western economies, are sometimes reluctant to offer that support. So it's a little surprising, but that's what I feel is the current state today. It might change 3 years from today.
So there are 3 areas, let me put it in a framework. Argho, like you mentioned, people who are out, or individuals who are coming out, or people who do not want to come out, right? So it's difficult, very, very difficult, because you do not know who you are addressing as a population, for who are you designing your rewards and benefits. Yeah. So out of my personal journey, right, we had this challenge like about 8 to 9 years ago in our organization, which was very, very hard to get any number at all. And there was only a couple of role models in our organization who were out and willing to stand up and say, we have something for the population in our company. That time, a couple of us stood up and said, we need to adopt a curtain framework in which only folks from the community can put themselves out and say, you can reach out to us for what support you need. We will convey it to the leadership and the management without disclosing any of your identifiable details, right? Therefore, we succeeded in bringing quite a lot of policy change, but then yes, it's a very, very, very difficult task to do, because you really have to win the trust of the individual. And to my knowledge, even today in my organization, I have individuals who have not come out, but have requested anonymity and have reached out to me and requested that can a particular change be made to accommodate their needs. So yes, it's a journey, and it took us 3 years to do that work, to be honest. It's after 2 years they started coming out, and only to specific people, not to the whole organization. So yes, that's one experiment we did, and it worked well, and because of which we have come forward with a lot of changes. And like you mentioned, right, sex reaffirmation surgery, which requires transitioning of an individual from the various genders, right, and the sex. Here, on that point, right, even I'm having a hard time implementing the policy which has been written, because, like you said, not many are out. The knowledge about this is very limited, and even the business buy-in, right, for a business to agree on something like that is also at times difficult. Yes, Shweta, you raised your hand for something.
Yes. So Zafrulla, I would say that sometimes the business has to look at beyond commercials in terms of, yes, I completely understand work with corporates, and at the end of the day, revenue is important. But if we genuinely feel that this is the cause, we have to look beyond numbers and beyond the revenues. Number one. Number two is when you talk about coming out. With all due respect, I accept the choices that the individuals have, but we also need to see that there are a lot of stigmas. I mean, to say, besides working in an organization, the individuals are also part of a society where they have gone through experiences, they have been conditioned in a certain manner. And when they come to the organization, that's a representation of that society itself. So it takes a lot of courage for them to express themselves and disclose their identity. As you mentioned, there needs to be one confidant to whom they can open their heart and just pour it out. And that confidant has to create that kind of, layer that they are safe. It is very important to keep on iterating and reiterating. This is a safe space. You are in a safe place. Nobody's judging you. You're absolutely, and it will take time because there are so many layers of conditioning and stigmas. To get off those, it will take time.
True, as I truly agree. The confidant question, like I said, it takes a long time. It took us 2 years for individuals to start working on it. And when I was referring to the business, right, we did not really have difficulty with the leadership who was pushing for the benefit, but it was with the insurance company, in fact. So yes, because a lot of insurance companies did not cover that, like you were saying, right? Not many companies offer it either. There are not many examples to show. So yes, those challenges, I think, still exist. And related to that, right, I'm sure there are certain rewards and benefits which are available in different geographies, but may not be in India, right? As in, which one do you think, which do you think could probably be something we can bring it down here, if at all possible, from your thought? Because from my point of view, the only thing which I remember is there are certain countries in Europe where medical health and all those things are covered by the state. And all of these scenarios of SRS, everything is covered by the general medical system. And there's no insurance things required. Now, let's come to that. That's something which is not available in India. So similarly, do you know of anything else which we can probably bring it down to our system, maybe from a corporate standpoint or from a general law standpoint, or even proposing it from a very industry standpoint? What do you think? Let me start with Shweta, and I think Argho, I'll come to you right after that.
Sure. So, Zafar, when I read about some of the practices that are being followed in different parts of the world, whether it's UK, US, Southeast Asia, which is Australia and a couple of other countries, I really haven't seen something as an outlier which could be kind of implemented here. Why? Because, again, when we talk about India, our policies and guidelines are also kind of mandated by the law of the land. But yes, I mean to say, for example, a lot of organizations do not cover when it's adoption or surrogacy. These kind of leaves or programs are not being extended to the other communities. Similarly, childcare. When we talk about childcare as well, childcare is only again limited to a certain section of the gender, not others. So I haven't really gone ahead and seen anything, at least until now, I haven't come up with something which is really an awesome thing which can be implemented in India. I believe we as a country and most of the organizations are doing their best to think differently and adopt or apply certain unique practices. Over to Argho.
Yeah.
So a couple of things which come to mind for Shweta, which I feel today are quite visible in UK, Europe, and still not yet at the forefront here. One is prioritizing pay equity. So if you see, pay equity is a hot topic right now in the West. You read the Financial Times, this, that, and they talk about pay equity indexes across companies and what is the gap, between different demographics, between different genders. I don't see that level of awareness or that becoming a hot topic is not yet a hot topic in India. So I think, that's something that could come and would be a good thing. As a multinational company, we anyway do our, reviews to ensure that pay equity is there, but it's not a burning issue. It has not yet become a burning issue in India. And I think it would be good if it happens, because I'm sure there is progress to be made. Other one could be customized benefits. We have come a long way, between customized to standard, and tax laws have driven us down a certain path. But customizing benefits to different demographics maybe something that could be looked at. What might be a good set of benefits for a white straight male in his 50s might be a totally uninteresting set of benefits for a very different demographic. And what I see in Europe, etc., is they have started to take cognizance of that, and make options available. So that's possibly something that we could also consider at some point.
Sure. As in, yes, agree with you on that, Argho, because what works for a set of population in a particular region may not necessarily have to work in a totally different country altogether. So yes, it does have to be customized based on the needs of individuals and the population. So yeah, and I think just to summarize, right, the total rewards concept should really serve a journey of an individual at an organization, starting from attracting talent, to that of engaging them while they're working and ensuring that you retain the best of the talents, right? And at the same time, evolving the culture, which is a time-consuming process, but start with something, move the needle little by little so that the change is brought in. And during the process, ensure that we motivate and develop the population with all methods of rewards, be it monetary, non-monetary. How do we actually bring that development in place is all up to our individual leaders' self, and even the individuals that are involved in it, as in everyone's party to it, to be honest. And therefore, I think with this, I'd like to request any of your closing comments before we can end the conversation, because, and I think we'll take questions right after that. So over to you, Argho. Please let us know your thoughts.
So I can only say personally for me, it's been a very exciting and rewarding journey working in this space for the last 3 years as a sponsor for LGBT in Natwest. I've learned a lot, and I would urge everyone in the audience that if you really want to make progress, become a firebrand internally. You have to, speak out. You have to push people. You have to challenge. You have to bang at doors. You are not going to drive change or make progress by being polite or quiet. No, if you really want to change things, you have to make a lot of noise and you have to push really, really hard. Thanks,
Thank you, Argho. Thank you very much. Shweta, over to you.
Sure. So I would say that I'm glad to see that there has been a remarkable change in the last 3 years, and glad to see organizations like the Pride Circle really making the waves within our country. And at the same time, I also see how organizations are also becoming more acceptable, acknowledging, and inclusive, not only with words, but with actions as well. Because when you interact, you see that actually it's happening on the ground. Whatever I do it from my heart. And I would say that, yes, I am really thrilled to be able to add some value. Maybe it's just a change for one individual, but that really gives me a lot of peace and satisfaction. So I'm honored to be in this space.
Thank you very much, Shweta. And we eagerly thank Pride Circle for giving us this opportunity to sit down and have this conversation on future of total rewards. All the way, rewards definition itself is not just reward the way it is conceived, but then beyond what we think. And for all our viewers, please pour in your questions and we'll address them as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Argho. Thank you, Zafrulla.